So the truth is, I actually started a channel back in 2023 under a different profile. I actually ended up taking it down because I was so nervous about what people would think about me. I was worried that coworkers that I worked with before would find my page, or friends or family would see it and they would criticize me. So I took it down. And as a matter of fact, even on this channel, I haven't shared it with my friends and family yet because I'm still a little nervous about what they're going to say. I do need to get past that, but I will. I'll get there. Hey there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tasha, and today we are going to unpack the second part of the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. I have already discussed chapters 1 through 4 in a prior video. This video, I'll be going through chapters 5 through 10, and we'll be just really going into each chapter and talking through my thoughts on what I've read. So stick around and let's get to it. So chapters 5 through 10 have 3 different segments in them. So Mel Robbins likes to break down her chapters into bits and pieces. So the 3 segments are actually called Fearing Other People's Opinions, Dealing with Other People's Emotional Reactions, and Overcoming Chronic Comparisons. All of these things are things that I've either struggled with in the past or I'm currently struggling with today. Now, just so you know, I am not a therapist in any way, shape, or form. I am just a normal person trying to work through my own things, and I just felt like sharing my journey with you guys on the internet. So here goes. Chapter 5, Let Them Think Bad Thoughts About You. So in this chapter, I related a bunch to what Mel was talking about. I do have a tendency to let what other people's thoughts and opinions are about me influence the things that I do. So much so that I hardly ever post online, honestly. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where right before I write a post, I reread it before I actually post it. Or if I have a picture I'm going to post online, I really try to make sure I look okay before I post the picture. You know what I'm talking about. Don't tell me you don't do the same thing. We're all human. What Mel talks about in this chapter is how we just need to let people think what they want to think about us. We should just go ahead and post that picture online and just, if we want to share something, we should be able to share it. And that's kind of her thought here. I actually want to read a passage to you in the book. She says, "Let them judge, let them react, let them doubt you, let them question the decisions you are making, let them be wrong about you, let them roll their eyes when you start posting videos online or you want to rewrite that manuscript for the 12th time. Instead of wasting your time worrying about them, start living your life in a way that makes you proud of yourself. Let me do what I want to do with my one and wild and precious life." I love that. I love that. That actually gave me so much inspiration. So the truth is, I actually started a channel back in 2023 under a different name, under a different profile. And I actually ended up taking it down because I was so nervous about what people would think about me. I was worried that coworkers that I worked with before would find my page, or friends or family would see it and they would criticize me. So I took it down. And as a matter of fact, even on this channel, I haven't shared it with my friends and family yet because I'm still a little nervous about what they're going to say. So I do need to get past that, but I will. I'll get there. Do you struggle with this too? Let me know in the comment section down below and let me know your thoughts. Also, if you don't mind, let me know how I'm doing. I could definitely use the encouragement. Okay, so now we're moving on to chapter 6. Chapter 6, How to Love Difficult People. All right, can I be real for a minute? I didn't fully either understand or agree with this chapter. Most of it I do. You'll see that. Most of it I do. There's just one piece of it that I'm kind of struggling with, and maybe you guys can help me kind of get through it. But in this chapter, Mel talks about how it's really easy to tell friends or coworkers or even strangers, let them. The let them theory is super easy for people that we don't have a super close connection with, right? But when you're talking about your family, things get a little bit different, don't they? She compares family to an interconnected web, kind of like a spider web, and where when you start to make any changes, or if your decision for whatever it is may not align with your family's decision, it can kind of send a ripple through the family, kind of like if you tap on a spider web and it kind of, ripples, sends a vibration through the spider web, which is so true. There have been many decisions that I have made or that I've heard a family member has made that, kind of rippled its way through my family web, and definitely heard about it for sure. In my instance, why in the world are you quitting that job and going off and doing something different? You're doing so well at your job. Why would you leave it? I'm like, it's my decision, you know? And not everybody in my family agreed with me on my decision to leave my job, but I had to let them. I had to let them feel that way. And I was just like, I'll show you. I'll show you. I'll do well. It'll be just fine. And it is so far. So far, so good. So I know they're just looking out for me. And that's what matters a lot to me. But where I differ with Mel a little bit in this is that I can't exactly let my family do things when I know that they're hurting themselves, if that makes any sense. So that's where I guess I struggle with this one a little bit, is that I don't know where to draw the line. And maybe I need to read a little bit more in the books. Maybe I'll find it. But at this moment in time, I'm struggling with that because I don't want anyone to get hurt um, or to fall into a bad path, by believing people that they shouldn't be believing. So maybe there's more information within this book that I need to get to understand that part of it. But at this point in time, I'm having a little bit of a hard time with just letting them, believe what they want to believe in certain instances when I know it's not the best for them. So anyway, other than that, there is another item within this chapter that she talks about, which is frame of reference. And I love this. When she talks about frame of reference, she explains it as understanding the lens through which somebody else sees something. So basically their perspective, right? This is where it's good to take a step back, and look at it through their frame of reference, as Mel calls it, or their perspective. And she goes into a story about her mom and how her mom didn't agree with her marrying her husband. It all boils down to basically her mom had an experience when she was younger, and she was afraid that Mel was going to have the same experience if she followed in the same path as her mom. So that was pretty much it. So it's basically taking a step back and putting yourself in their shoes and being like, oh, that's why you're upset with me on this. That's why you're looking out for me, because you don't want me to make the same mistakes that you made. Got it. And then at that point you just explain, I'm a different person. I'm not going to make those same mistakes, but thank you. Thank you for for giving me the guidance and for caring. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your story with me. Then I will make sure I don't follow that same path. It's all about communication. It's really what it is. So anyway, that about does it for chapter 6. And also that wraps up the first segment. So now we're going to go into the second segment, which is about dealing with someone else's emotional reactions. So this is for chapters 7 and 8. Chapter 7, When Grown-ups Act Like Children. In this chapter, Mel talks about the fact that every person is basically, we all have the emotional intelligence of an 8-year-old in a tall body.
I think that we should see 1/4 of that.
So we're all just little 8-year-olds here walking around in a tall body. And I guess for me, not that much taller. And it's interesting whenever you look at it, like when someone is texting you some really long text message because they're upset with something, or they're venting, or they give you the silent treatment and they won't talk to you at all, or they scream and holler at you to get their point across. That is all an 8-year-old's tantrum, basically. It's some kind of a tantrum, some kind of an emotional release that they're doing that makes them react that way. What she talks about is basically learning how to deal with that 8-year-old inside of people. And you can't give them that attention that they want. And it's so interesting. So, if you were dealing with an 8-year-old that was having a tantrum, what would you do, or what should you do? You should definitely not give that 8-year-old that attention they're looking for. So you have to, look at it from that frame of reference, right? Yeah, I've definitely been on the receiving end of a lot of those people having those emotional tantrums and acting like 8-year-olds. And so now if I look at them and I pretend like they are an 8-year-old, it's going to make me change the way that I behave whenever I'm actually in that interaction. She also brings up the fact that we ourselves are sometimes that 8-year-old that's acting out. And then she talks about how to deal with it. So if you realize that you're the one that's starting to have those tantrums, then you need to basically pause and just realize that you're having this tantrum, right? Like pause and go, "Oh my gosh, here it comes. I'm getting angry. I'm getting upset. I'm getting mad. I'm bored, or whatever, you know." And then you have to learn how to control it at that point. That's going to take some practicing for sure, but you definitely it definitely is achievable, and it's something that I've been practicing lately too. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with a gentleman named Michael Singer, but Michael Singer is he is another person that I've been following for a while, and I listen to his podcast. He's really great, and I do plan on reading his book on here for sure. I don't know if it'll be next, but maybe it might be the next book that I read on here. Anyway, he talks about the fact that you have to consciously manage your subconscious. So you have to be able to like detach yourself for a second and look at your thoughts. Pay attention to your thoughts in your brain and like what is going on there. So when you start realizing that you're getting mad or angry or you're about ready to send that text message because you're so upset, or you're about ready to go and write something on some person's social media blog, and you're going to just go off on them, stop and give yourself a moment and realize what you're about to do and just say like, "Hey, hold on, Tasha, there you are. Look at you getting all angry," and pause and give yourself 90 seconds to just kind of get through that emotional feeling. Just watch it go by though. Don't do anything about it. Don't react to it. Just watch that emotion go by and let it wash over like a wave. And then take a deep breath and get through it and release it. You can't act on those emotional feelings. And that's pretty much what Mel talks about here, where you just have to notice that these feelings are bubbling up and then watch them go by and then, keep moving forward without acting on those emotions because that's just your 8-year-old self throwing a tantrum. So you can't give in to those feelings. So that's pretty much it for chapter 7. Now moving on to chapter 8. Chapter 8. The right decision often feels wrong. All right, this one was really interesting. I guess they're all kind of interesting. I feel like that's a common theme that I keep saying. In this chapter, Mel talks about a listener in her podcast that wrote in and said, it was a gentleman, and he said that he was engaged and he is not sure he wants to continue on with the engagement, but he's concerned about letting the engagement go for fear of what his whole family will think and what her family will think, and the fact that she was close with his family. So basically, he was letting everybody else's emotions get in the way of his own feelings, his own gut feelings. And so in this chapter, Mel basically says that we need to trust our gut. We know what's right. Maybe talk about it with somebody that you're close with before you make an emotional decision. Definitely talk through it before you just act on something. But if you feel in your gut that you are not doing something that you should be doing, or if there's something that you are very passionate about that you feel like you need to pursue or not pursue, whatever it is, but you're afraid to make that jump because you're afraid of what other people will think about you when you make that jump, then definitely talk about it with someone before you do it. But most likely, you need to follow your gut. Your gut is telling you what you should be doing, and that's kind of what she's talking about in this chapter. Yeah, there's definitely a lot. I have a lot of emotions tied to this one as well. There's been a lot of things in my life that I have held back on because of the exact same thing that she's talking about here. I stayed in a marriage far too long, and I should have left it for fear of many, many things. But you live and learn, and I have since learned, and I'm now very happily remarried, and life worked out great for me. And so, I'm glad that I finally trusted my gut when I did and got out of that marriage, because otherwise I wouldn't have found my current husband who makes me so happy. So, trust your gut. That's what I'm saying here. All right. So now we are getting past that next segment and we're into the last segment. This last segment is about overcoming chronic comparison. And so this will be in our last 2 chapters today. So starting with chapter 9. Chapter 9. Yes, life isn't fair. Oh boy. Is life not fair, right? Oh my gosh. Come on. You agree. You know, life is just not fair. There are people who have things that you're just like, how the heck did you get so lucky to have that? You know, this celebrity on TV who just somehow just got their break and made it, or, you know, people who are just born into the right family and they have a trust fund and they are just able to live life and just have a blast and do whatever they want. Man, life just isn't always fair, is it? Because I sure as heck didn't have any of those. But that's okay. Not to mention the fact that I'm a real estate agent. And oh, yeah, so are 53,421 other people in my state of Arizona. Talk about competition. I have some major competition out there. It's crazy. So, what she talks about in chapter 9 is that there are basically two types of comparisons that we do. And chapter 9, we're going to talk about one of them. Chapter 10 will be about the other. So, in this one, we're talking about torture. Yes, I said torture. um, in this definition, she says, when you find yourself obsessed over, caught up in, or beating ourselves up over something that you will never be able to change. I'll never be able to change the fact that I wasn't born into a trust fund, will I? Neither will you, unless you were, which congratulations if you were. But because there's nothing that I can do to change that, then I shouldn't obsess over it, right? If it's not something that you can change within the next 90 seconds, then you can't obsess over it. Don't torture yourself with that comparison. There's nothing you can do to change it. You have to just let them let them be people born with a trust fund. You know, let it be. It's fine. That's all that you can do. There's nothing that you can do to change it, right? So all you can do is control your own emotions. Did we talk about that before? I'll put that chart back up again. So in the book, she says, the more time you spend staring at someone else, the more you miss the entire point of the game. She also says, other people teach you how to be a better player, and that's how you win. So in my instance of, real estate having 53,421 other people, that's a lot of people that I can look to say, okay, you're doing a good job with this. You're doing a good job with that. But we're going to get to that in the next chapter. All right. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and move on to the next chapter because I think that you'll get the most out of this next one. Chapter 10, how to make comparison your teacher. Okay. So remember I said there were two types of comparisons. The first one was torture. The second one is the teacher. I love that. Okay. So hear me out. So you're scrolling on Instagram and you're seeing all these people, there's so many people to look at and all of that. And you're like, man, I wish, I wish, I wish. Let's just say, I'm just going to go back to my real estate example. Okay, there's a whole bunch of Instagram people on there for real estate. And I can just sit there and say, oh, I wish, I wish, I wish. Or I can say, oh, teach me, you know? So instead of looking at it as a bad thing, like, oh my gosh, there's so many people that are so much better than me, I can go, oh, that's awesome. There are so many people that are so much better than me that I have a lot of people that I can actually use to mirror their formula that they've already put together, right? I mean, they've already done the work and everything. I just can look at them and go, oh, that is a good way of doing that. I really like that. And I can use that in my own creative way to do something for myself, right? I can use their creativity as my teacher. And so there's a lot of great quotes in this one. I'm just going to read a few of them. So one quote was from Mel Robbins. She said, there is so much opportunity in front of your face because 95% of the things that you want in life you can create if you are willing to work hard, be consistent and disciplined and patient. Very little of your life is fixed in stone. So this kind of goes along with having a fixed versus a growth mindset, doesn't it? You can't have that fixed mindset where you think this is how it is. Nothing can change. It just is what it is. That's not the truth. That is not the truth. Let that go. You need to have a growth mindset where anything can change. Like she says, 95% of the things in your life that you want, you can create. That's a lot of change that can be done. You just have to decide to make it, right? That's pretty exciting when you think about that. The next quote that I love of hers is, the reason why these people make you so angry is because you know you could do it too. And you are just mad that you didn't start doing it a long time ago. The fact is, Inspiration is not enough to get you motivated to do something. This is why anger is important. Okay, so anger helps fuel you so you know what's most important, right? Anger and jealousy. So if you look at anger and jealousy as something that you notice, you're like, okay, I am angry or jealous about this topic, this thing right here. It makes me so jealous. There's an underlying reason for that. It's because it's something that you want to do. So at that point, you know that is something important to you. And that is such a good opportunity for you to take that and use it as fuel to do it, right? I mean, at that point, you know you have clear direction. You're like, I am angry about this. So what should I do about it, right? I love that. I love that. Um, so there's another way of looking at it. You can look at it like, okay, I don't want that. Well, if I don't want that, what do I want instead? And then go towards that. That's so critical. So I don't want to be in this job anymore, right? I don't want to do this job anymore. Okay, then what do you want? What job do you want? Or what would you rather be doing? But you have to push through all the boring stuff to get to what you want, though. So it doesn't just happen. You have to make it happen. There's another quote from Tom Brady that says, to be successful at anything, the truth is you don't have to be special. You just have to be what most people aren't: consistent, determined, and willing to work for it. Come on. You can do it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. Everyone can do it. We all are special. We all can do things. There is not one person that's any better than the other of us. As long as we're willing to put the work in on it, we can do anything. Anything we want to set our mind to. It's pretty enlightening if you think about it that way. All right, friends. Well, that was the last chapter that I'm going to review today in the Let Them theory. Let me know what your thoughts are so far. Which chapter has meant the most to you so far? And have you introduced any of the Let Them theory practices into your life yet? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to know. Also, if you're into real life conversations like this, please consider subscribing. I'd appreciate it. Oh, and if you know anyone else who needs this message, feel free to share it. Be the spark in someone else's day. And until next time, let your light shine and let's enlighten this world together.